Welcome back, children. This video is part 2 of Phylum Porifera, which is taken from chapter 4, Animal Kingdom. So, before I begin the class, let me tell you that at the end of this class, I am going to share questions which were asked in NEET from this chapter specifically. And I am also going to share the percentage which is allotted for this chapter, children. So wait till the end, listen to the entire class, and also know the weightage and the questions asked. Then I'm also going to share the reason, why Euplectella is given as a Japanese wedding gift. So let's look at the reason also, and before that, we would also continue learning about phylum Porifera. So that's Porifera, and I'm going to talk about nervous system, children. Now, as I told you, since poriferans are cellular level of organization exhibiting animals, that means what? They are multicellular, they show only a group of cells having different functions or carrying out different functions. So that means what? These animals do not show any tissue formation, which obviously means they do not show any other systems. Like if you can look at the point there, nerve cells and sensory cells are absent. See, when nervous system is absent, children, what does it mean? It means there's no coordination between the internal parts. Like the cells, they do not coordinate. Because what do we need for coordination? Obviously, we need a nervous system. Now, this nervous system is completely absent in poriferans. So, there is no coordination even between the group of cells. They independently, carry out their own function. So, that is all about the nervous system. Now, coming to the next point, if you see, children, their body is covered by skeletal, skeletal structures, I would say. It's like an exoskeleton and it is made up of it can be calcareous, that means it is made up of calcium carbonate, or it can be siliceous, that means it is made up of SiO2. So they are in the form of spicules. If you look onto the screen here, follow my cursor, look at the spicules, the siliceous spicules and the calcareous spicules, or some of them have this spongin fiber, which is a protein. So either they would have a calcium carbonate exoskeleton or a siliceous exoskeleton or spongin fibers. In some, you see both of them. So that is how the organism is protected from the external environment. Let's talk about, the sexes. Now, sexes are not separate in these animals. That means what? It is a hermaphrodite or a monoecious animals. That means what? The male and the female reproductive organs are present in the same organism. You don't see them in separate organisms, but you see them in the same organism. Now, what word or what term do you use if the animal is showing sex organs in two different individuals? You would use the word dioecious. But these animals are monoecious or hermaphrodite. That means they would have the male and female reproductive organs like testes and ovaries are present in the same organism. Now, poriferans show asexual kind of reproduction as well as sexual kind of reproduction, children. So, if you see, asexual kind of reproduction is carried out by, majorly two different types of processes. One is called as fragmentation, and I'm sure what is the meaning of fragmentation. So, fragmentation is if a piece, of a poriferan or a sponge gets detached, or accidentally if a piece falls off, that piece can grow into an entire sponge. So that is fragmentation. Or they can also undergo asexual reproduction by budding or through budding. If you look onto the screen here, you can follow my cursor. This is the process of budding. So this is the parent organism. You would see a small outgrowth forming from the parent organism. This outgrowth grows, for a period of time. It attains a proper shape and size, and then this outgrowth, which we call it as bud, it detaches or dissociates from the parent body, and then it starts growing as a new individual or the offspring. So this is what we call it as budding. So either it is by fragmentation or by budding. Then what about sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction is, is by formation of gametes, that is male and female gametes. If we're talking about male gametes, sperm formation, or female gamete, eggs are formed, and then fertilization of sperm and egg would take place. Now, how will this fertilization happen? Fertilization happens internally, that means inside the organism. Now, if you all know, fertilization is of two types, external and internal fertilization. So, if fertilization is happening within the body of the organism, you would call it as internal. If it is happening outside the body of the organism, like outside in the water, if water is the medium, you call it as external fertilization. So in poriferans, usually you would see internal fertilization. And the other thing is the kind of fertilization these sponges show, you call it as protandrous. Now, what do you mean by protandrous? In these organisms, testes mature earlier than ovaries. That means sperms are released earlier than the eggs are released from the organism. That means these sperms, they can move out and they get fertilized with the eggs of the adjacent sponge also. So it's a kind of cross fertilization that you would see in these organisms. Then coming to cleavage, children. So cleavage is called as or cleavage is holoblastic. What do you mean by cleavage? It means division. So, what kind of cell division do they show? After fertilization, obviously a zygote is formed, which is a single cell structure. This zygote enters into division, which is mitotic division. Now, how do they divide? Their kind of division is called as holoblastic. That means the entire fertilized egg is involved in division. That you call it as holoblastic. So, holo means complete. When complete cell is involved in division, you call it as holoblastic. So that is the kind of cleavage they show. Then development is indirect. So once fertilization is done, zygote is formed, then you see the embryo developing. And when you see during the developmental stage, when you are seeing larvae in between or larval stages in between, you would call it as indirect development, children. Now, some animals show direct development, that means what, there are no larval stages involved, but in sponges, you would see indirect kind of development where they show larval stages. Now, these are the common larval stages that you observe in sponge, and that is amphiblastula. This is how amphiblastula larva looks like, and the other one is parenchyma. This is how a parenchyma larva looks like, children. Okay, now let me tell you why Euplectella is considered as a wedding gift. So you can see, first of all, let's learn where do you see Euplectella. You would see it in deep waters of Pacific Ocean, since it's a marine organism. Then shrimps. Shrimps are similar to prawns. Now, where will this shrimps and prawns come under in animal kingdom? They are crustaceans. But although shrimps and prawns are distinct, they are genetically distinct. They come under crustaceans, but they are different. But if you talk about how shrimps look like, they look like prawns. So they say that these shrimps live in mutual relationship with Euplectella. And when do these shrimps enter Euplectella? Right in the larval stages, male and female shrimps enter the Euplectella and they live inside. The male and female live inside Euplectella until they die. So this is like what they say is this is influenced by the adoption of the sponge as a symbol of undying love. Since they are living in mutual relationship, Euplectella and the shrimp, and that too until they die, they live in association. So, as a symbol of undying love, Euplectella is given as a wedding gift in Japan. So you can see it is given as a wedding gift, symbolizing the wedding vow, till death us do part. So that is the reason why it is given as a wedding gift. Sounds really interesting, right? Now, I am going to share points to remember for me. Now, let me tell you, children, in my videos or in my app, I am going to teach you what is important for NEET. I am not going to give you any other information like If you take coaching from other places, they would give you unnecessary information which is not required, and in turn it gives you a kind of tension as to what and what not to learn. So in my videos as well as in this locus app, you are going to learn especially what is required for NEET, and you are not taught anything unnecessary. So, children, the points to remember under phylum Porifera, if you remember these 10 points, that is enough from this phylum. So, what are those points? First thing is they are commonly called sponges, as you all know it. They are marine organisms, mostly marine. And there is one freshwater sponge which is called as spongilla, which comes from the family Spongilidae. So, this is only the freshwater sponge that you would see, and then they are primitively multicellular. They are sessile animals, mostly asymmetrical or radial symmetry, cellular level of organization, and they have this water transport system, which is called as canal system or paragastric cavity. They have these ostia. Their cavity is called spongocele and osculum. Water enters through ostia, exits through osculum, and when this is happening, you would see all the other functions happening. Then they have these special cells lining the spongocele called as choanocytes or collar cells. They are hermaphrodites or monoecious. Then development is indirect. So children, if you learn these points regarding phylum Porifera, that is enough for you to prepare for. And then examples. See, every phylum has certain examples, and I want you all to learn examples because examples are very, very important. So, what are the examples? Cycon, also called Cypha, Spongilla, which is the freshwater sponge, and Euspongia, which is also called as a bath sponge. Let's get into previous year's questions which were asked from NEET. Now, Cycon belongs to a group of animals which are best described as. How do we describe it? So, multicellular, having tissue organization but no body cavity, unicellular or acellular, multicellular without any tissue organization, multicellular with a gastrovascular cavity. And your answer should be, children, multicellular without any tissue organization. The option is C. Next question, which one of the following statements about all the four, Spongilla, which is the freshwater sponge, leech, dolphin, and penguin, is correct? So option A says penguin is homeothermic while the remaining three are poikilothermic. Leech is a freshwater uh, form, while others are marine. Spongilla has specialized collared cells called choanocytes not found in remaining three. And D option, all are bilaterally symmetrical. So what's the answer? Answer is C, because Spongilla has these collared cells or choanocytes which are not found in any of those three categories. Because I told you, choanocytes are specialized cells that you find only in this phylum. So the answer is C. And coming to the weightage, children, the weightage for this chapter is around 10% when I'm talking in terms of percent. Now, when you talk in terms of questions, you would get around 3 questions from this chapter. Thank you.